Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where your host has a fully recharged mojo, because I've returned from an adventure where I stayed in an incredibly beautiful and quaint Simonstown, which is in Cape Town, South Africa. And my adventure included hiking Table Mountain, dancing with penguins, snorkeling with seals, swimming with sharks, a school of dolphins, and even fending off baboons. Not to mention, of course, an incredibly humbling experience of visiting Robert Island and Nelson Mandela's prison cell. But enough of my travel tales. What I do hope you notice is before I even thought about getting on a plane, I made sure you all had a podcast episode delivered to your podcast feed every single day while I was away, because I do take serving you, my loyal audience, incredibly seriously. But I'm now going to throw myself straight back into that podcasting chair so we can speak with Mike Bartels from Tobii Pro about their recent TV ad study. And if the name Tobii Pro does sound familiar, there is a good reason for that. It's because I spoke with Joseph Goldberg on, I think it was episode 695, and we talked all about their eye tracking technology. But what caught my attention this time was how researchers at Tobii Pro have found new interesting conclusions and insights that advertisers and brands really do need to keep in mind when planning a new commercial. So I wanted to explore how Tobii Pro is helping identify exactly what makes an effective broadcast TV commercial, especially in a world full of mobile devices and so many other distractions where we're looking everywhere but at the TV screen. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to St. Louis in Missouri so we can speak with Mike Bartels, Senior Research Director at Tobii Pro Insight. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Mike. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Mike Bartels. I am the Director of Marketing Research and User Experience at Tobii Pro North America.
Fantastic. Now, for regular listeners, of course, I spoke to Joseph Goldberg on episode 695 of this podcast last year. So is there anything exciting that's happened in the last 3 months that listeners might have missed since we last spoke with Joseph?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you and Joseph had talked about the launch of Tobii Pro Sprint. There's always new fun technologies and things going on here at Tobii. I would say in the last 3 months, a couple areas of focus that have been pretty exciting have been virtual reality eye tracking. That's something that's really taking off, being able to track exactly where people are looking inside a virtual environment. With the eye tracker built directly into the VR headset. It's really changed a lot of the way that we're able to do research into, shopper behavior in virtual stores and how consumers navigate a hotel lobby or another type of virtual environment, and capturing exactly where they're looking during that process. So that's one thing that's been pretty exciting. We've also been digging into a new area of research for us, which is professional performance research. Eye tracking has traditionally been used quite a bit in academic research, user experience, consumer behavior, but now we're using it quite a bit more in testing how people operate machinery or perform professional tasks at work, really understanding what is the visual process that a worker is going through as they're doing their job on a day-to-day basis, which is important for training and safety and all sorts of different reasons. So those have been kind of two of the main areas of focus in the last few months for us.
Fantastic. And it is incredibly exciting technology. And one of the main reasons I invited you back on today was after reading that you guys have done a new study that can help identify what makes an effective broadcast TV commercial in a world full of mobile devices and so many other distractions out there. So can you expand on exactly what you found in this study? There were some pretty fascinating insights from the report, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was quite a bit in there. We ended up looking at around 150 people and 3,000 different commercials. And what we really focused on was, where are people looking? What's holding attention? What is associated with people tuning out? And there were, a number of interesting findings about both the placement of the commercial that is most effective and the content of the commercial and kind of what works in drawing people in, what tends to be associated with people kind of zoning out and going back to their smartphones. Some of the things we found that commercials placed earlier in the commercial break are most likely to hold attention compared with those later in the commercial break. But sort of counterintuitively, we also found that the commercial breaks later in a program tended to do a better job of holding attention than those earlier in the program. So, as the person is kind of sitting there watching the show, the longer they're watching, the more they tend to focus their attention on those commercials that are airing. We also found some interesting things, some gender differences. Men tend to look at the screen during commercials longer than women. There was a slight difference generationally, looking at people under the age of 35. They spend about 5% less time with their eyes on the screen during the commercials, which actually this one was interesting to me because we had been expecting there to be a larger difference. The conventional wisdom today is that millennials and younger, they have their eyes buried in their smartphone all the time and they're not focusing as much on the screen. This research showed that that's actually not the case. They are still paying attention to commercials while they're airing. So those are a couple of interesting ones. We also found that having a celebrity athlete in your commercial tends to work quite well in holding attention on the screen. We found that advertising for local businesses and restaurants and things that the consumer, could potentially get up off the couch and go get right now tend to hold attention better than products and services that are not local to them. That's just a few. There's quite a bit in there, kind of digging into all the different aspects of commercial placement, commercial timing, commercial content, and understanding, what does the best job of holding attention.
So if we do have anyone just tuning in and are just hearing about eye tracking for the very first time, could you possibly expand on how eye tracking can actually provide unique and scientific insights on the elements of a TV commercial, and equally how it just grabs or drops a viewer's attention and how that technology works?
Yeah, absolutely. So eye tracking is exactly what it sounds like it is. It's a technology that allows us to record and analyze exactly where somebody is looking as they're watching television or using a website or shopping in a store or performing a task at work. The eye tracker, in this case, is a set of specialized glasses that has high-speed cameras built into them that track the location of your focus throughout a given exercise. They're lightweight, they're comfortable to the user. They feel more or less just like wearing a pair of glasses. So for this particular study, we did not have a moderator there. We did not have somebody sitting in the chair next to you watching you watch TV and collecting this data. These are people that have taken these eye tracking glasses home, put them on, and just worn them through a normal night of relaxing and unwinding at the house. So we're able to get this hyper accurate data while the participants in the study are just doing what they normally would do. And obviously this is ideal whenever you're able to conduct research sort of as a fly in the wall without disturbing the activity that you're hoping to test. You're going to get the most accurate data possible. So yeah, that's sort of how the technology works. The consumers that were in this study, they wear the glasses while they're watching television. We go through that data and analyze every commercial that popped up on screen during their evening of viewing and how much of that time their eyes were on the screen versus looking at their smartphone or talking to their family members or interacting with their pets or all these other different activities that we picked up. In this case, we were just focused on how often are their eyeballs on the screen watching the television commercials.
And we are all multitaskers now. And there's a lot of conversations about second screening where we can actually be looking down at our smartphone and commenting about the program that we're watching on TV by almost monitoring social media and watching TV at the same time. I'm curious, can the glasses pick up on that second screening where you are doing two things at once?
Yeah, absolutely. So the glasses they're recording two things. They're recording the location of your eyes, where your eyes are pointed, and also on the front of these glasses, there's a user camera that's taking a video of the world around you. So every time you shift your focus from the TV to the smartphone, you see the data point showing where you're focusing move from the TV to the smartphone. And in this way, you really are able to pick up all of those behaviors, all of those different distractions, all of the different cues that tend to pull people to and pull people away from the TV. In the case of the smartphone, it's been really interesting over the past 5 to 10 years to look at this sort of data and see how much more automatically and how much more engaged people are with these smartphones than the content on the TV. It used to be something that would be picked up from time to time, maybe to send a message, and now we're seeing a lot more back and forth from the TV screen to the smartphone screen over and over again throughout the content that they're watching. So it's been pretty interesting to watch that sort of behavior evolve in real time.
And can you also tell me a little bit more about the treasure trove of data that's super relevant to ad agencies, ad buyers, brands, and TV networks, and that continued relevance of television as an advertising medium? Because everyone seems to think that, TV's dead and we're looking at mobile devices now, but that's not the case, is it?
No, it really isn't. I mean, on a mass branding basis, there really is still no more powerful tool than the television to pull in attention, get your product in front of people, and make your pitch. Obviously, things like streaming services and smartphones have taken a bite out of what used to be called the salesman in every living room, the television commercial. But there's a lot of data out there that's saying that hold on a minute, TV commercials are still actually a powerful tool in the toolkit of an advertiser to get messaging across. It's probably not the only thing that an advertiser will want to do. Social media is great. There's also a place for print advertising, but the demise of the television commercial has been somewhat overstated based on our research.
And you did mention a few moments ago about virtual reality, and obviously that's a completely immersive experience where you can't look at your smartphone. Does that produce any different results, or are the habits and trends very, very similar?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, virtual reality is still something that's relatively new to most people. Most people out there still will have never put on a high fidelity VR headset and interacted with a VR environment. So in that case, it's sort of still on the learning curve aspect of using VR as a research technology. However, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, if the projections are correct, there's going to be a lot more of these VR systems in everybody's homes, and everybody's going to be quite used to using them. And the experience of being in a VR environment is going to become something that's quite natural to people, which of course makes it a better research methodology to be used in these kinds of contexts. In terms of the research that we're doing with it now, we're doing a lot of shopper research where we bring people into a virtual store and have them shop different aisles that are laid out differently or have different package designs. And it's a really nice way to do A/B testing to understand if the new package you've put out there is going to grab more attention and be considered more and ultimately put into the basket. And it's still a virtual reality environment. It's not the same as being in a real store, but it's far better than some of the techniques that were used in the past, such as projecting an image of a shelf on a wall or showing an image of a shelf on a computer screen. We've certainly reached a higher level of reality than those types of testing techniques.
Now, as well as a lot of techies listening to this podcast, there will be a lot of business leaders as well. So I've got to ask, do you have any examples of any clients that you work with, just to help listeners visualize how you're actually delivering value to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have quite a large client list, a couple that I can talk about in this context because the results have been publicized, specifically around attention in the home. We've done some work with Facebook. We've done some work with Google, aimed around really understanding this experience of, your natural behavior in your home as you're kicking back in the evening, watching TV, using your smartphone, opening whatever apps you typically open, interacting with your family, making dinner, sort of all of these activities. In the past, companies that are interested in user experience or interested in attention to media, what they've had to do to get any type of data on attention is bring people into a lab and kind of create an artificial environment. So the studies that we've run with Facebook and Google have kind of allowed them to, get into a more immersive, naturalistic context and really get a deeper understanding of how people really interact with technology and media in the modern world.
And if we do look across the entire tech landscape there, what is it you think that's unique with eye tracking technology that just cannot be replicated by anything else out there, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I would say the thing about eye tracking and kind of the way that I boil it down when I tell people what it does is it allows you to see the world through the eyes of the consumer or the user or whoever it is that you're interested in understanding. There is no technology out there that gives you this type of objective way of looking through the eyes of the person that you're interested in understanding. There are other types of biofeedback measures and physiological sensors that can tell you things about heart rate and arousal and brain activity. There are interviews and surveys and more traditional methods that you can hear from people, their perceptions and expectations and opinions. But there is no other way aside from eye tracking to, really be able to experience visually what the customer is experiencing.
So is there anything else that you can share with us about the kind of things that you're working on both now and in the future?
Yeah, so I can share a little bit more about the different areas that we're working in. Obviously, understanding human attention is something that has a lot of different applications. And, this goes across scientific research, goes into consumer research, medical research, professional performance research. There are so many different applications. So we sort of find ourselves pulled in a lot of different directions with all the different companies and institutions that are interested in implementing our technology. So I've mentioned VR, I've mentioned professional performance. Those are a couple of areas that we're kind of focusing a lot of attention these days. On the other end of the spectrum from kind of the super high-tech virtual reality eye tracking, but geez, I mean, there's just so many different areas where this technology can be applied that we're constantly discovering a new one every day.
And if there is anybody listening that just wants to find out more information about your eye tracking technology and the kind of thing that you're doing, and maybe even just keep up to date with all the work that you're doing there, what's the best way of keeping up to speed and maybe even contacting a member of your team if they've got any questions at all?
Yeah, so you can find us at tobiipro.com. It's TOBIIPRO.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at Tobii Pro. And from there you can get in touch with somebody on our team.
It really feels at the moment like attention's almost becoming a new currency, quite literally, if you look at the Brave browser and the back cryptocurrency. But what I love about what you're doing there is you're using technology to try and obtain a scientific understanding of attention and what captures it and what engages us, which I think is just fantastic, incredibly exciting. So more than anything, though, just a big thank you for taking the time to come and speak with me today. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
The unique hook of this study for me is that Tobii Pro eye-tracked its participants in their actual homes as they watch TV over 2 years between 2016 to 2018. And I'm fascinated by how eye tracking provides these unique scientific insights on the exact elements of a TV commercial and what does grab and what equally drops our attention. And Tobii Pro did manage to identify the best points to air a commercial and the ideal length, as well as gender and age differences and how they all impact our attention span. And of course, most revealing is some of the findings go against the traditional thinking on exactly what does make an effective commercial. And it's this treasure trove of data that must be super relevant now to ad agencies, ad buyers, brands, TV networks, and that list goes on, and showcasing the continued relevance of television as an advertising medium in a digital age. And like I said a few moments ago, attention really is becoming the new currency, especially with the likes of the Brave browser, which I started using a few months ago. And for example, on the Brave browser, I'm currently looking at a screen. It says that there's 18,000 trackers blocked, 90,000 ads blocked, saving me over 2 hours in time. But what's really going to get interesting with this browser, of course, is when they start introducing the cryptocurrency bat into it and rewarding users for choosing what they give their attention to. Essentially highlighting that attention is a new currency. And there is a link on my site if you're finding Google Chrome a little bit sluggish and you're looking for a new browser, I'll put a link on the show notes of this podcast. Download it, give it a try. I'm interested in what you think. But all that is my takeaway and the kind of things that interest me. But what did you guys and dolls listening actually think? And especially if this is your area of expertise, I want to find out more about your insights and your takeaways. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Let me know exactly what you think. Remember, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, or even Instagram, you can also find me by having a quick search for Neil C. Hughes. But as you can probably tell, I'm like a coiled spring and a little bit excited to get back in my podcasting chair today. But I can feel a nagging little bit of jet lag sneaking up on me, so I'm off for a power nap, or a reboot as I prefer to call them, and I'll return tomorrow with another great guest and hopefully a lot of fantastic talking points about how technology is transforming multiple industries. But more than anything, just a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.